If confirmed, she will succeed retiring Justice Stephen Breyer, who of course she clerked for. The president introduced her at the White House last month. She called America, quote, the greatest beacon of hope and democracy the world has ever known. The 51-year-old Judge Jackson is no stranger to the confirmation process. This is her fourth time facing the Senate Judiciary Committee. She has received bipartisan support 3 times before, appearing before the committee just last year when she was confirmed to the D.C. Federal Appeals Court. 3 Republican senators joining Democrats back then: Lindsey Graham, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski. Of course, no guarantee she will get their support this time. The members of the committee have now all made their opening statements. Democrats praising her background as a judge, also as the first public defender nominated to the court. Republicans congratulating her, marking the historic moment as well, talking about having met her in recent days, about her beaming with pride as she talked about her family, though hinting at the line of questioning to come from Republicans. She has met with more than 40 senators now, Republicans and Democrats. Over the coming days, Republicans are expected to question her about her record. Judge Jackson's husband, a surgeon, and her 2 daughters are sitting nearby. We should also note that today's hearing taking place while Justice Clarence Thomas remains hospitalized for treatment of an infection. As we await to hear her in her opening remarks, let's go to Rachel Scott. She's inside the room on Capitol Hill. Rachel, Democrats and Republicans, we've been listening in, signaling their lines of inquiry ahead.
Yes, David, and they will be zeroing in on the nearly 600 opinions that she wrote as a federal judge. Today, Democrats kicking off this hearing, praising the history that is being made in this room. They've been alternating with the other 11 Republicans on this committee, talking about her record. And Republicans have been previewing some of their attacks. What Democrats see as an asset, her time as a public defender, Republicans certainly do see as a problem. But David, I could tell you, I've been listening to these hearings unfold over the last few hours, and there is one thing that both sides agree on, that Judge Jackson, the first Black woman to be nominated to the Supreme Court, is highly qualified for the job, David.
All right, Rachel Scott, stick with us here. Anchor Lindsay Davis has been watching right along with me. And Lindsay, as Rachel just pointed out, both Democrats and Republicans on the Judiciary Committee have talked about the historic moment playing out.
And we heard in particular from Senator Cory Booker talking about his joy because of the magnitude of this moment. A few days ago, when President Biden first introduced her, he talked about how for far too long our government, our courts have not looked like America. And now here we are in the middle of Women's History Month, making this significant history. There's a lot of excitement across the country, watch parties taking place so that people can witness this together. Again, as you said, the fulfillment of a campaign promise. So with a lot of eyeballs on the first Black female nominee also comes a lot of scrutiny. As you talked about, this is her 4th time now going before the Senate Judiciary Committee. And there's a saying in the Black community that often you have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And we heard from her the other day saying that she has come this far by faith. I would also add, and a lot of hard work. She checks a lot of boxes here, David. She has a history as a judge in the federal court, the appellate court, the district court. She was also on the Sentencing Commission. She was also a public defender, and I believe that she's about to get sworn in here. But it's just a tremendous moment here that we are watching today.
No question about that. You can see her smiling. She has smiled often, as both Democrats and Republicans have celebrated the history of the moment. Yeah, wiping tears. Her daughter's nearby, her husband, the surgeon that she met at Harvard. Let's listen to the chair of the committee as she's about to be sworn in.
Jackson, to many of us, not for the first time, maybe reintroduced it. But Doug, thank you for serving in this cause and for helping the president and Judge Jackson. Thank you all 3 for being with us today. We are now going to move to the next phase of the program, and that is to hear from Judge Jackson. So if we could set up the... Before you sit down, Judge, I'm going to ask you to take the oath. So. Ready? Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give before the committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Let the record reflect that the judge has answered in the affirmative, and having met that requirement, you may now proceed with your remarks.
Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Grassley, and distinguished members of the Judiciary Committee, thank you for convening this hearing and for considering my nomination as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. I am humbled and honored to be here. And I am also truly grateful for the generous introductions that my former judicial colleague, Judge Tom Griffith, and my close friend, Professor Lisa Fairfax, have so graciously provided. I'm also very thankful for the confidence that President Biden has placed in me and for the kindness that he and the First Lady and the Vice President and the Second Gentleman have extended to me and my family. Today will be the fourth time that I've had the honor of appearing before this committee to be considered for confirmation. Over the past 3 weeks, I have also had the honor of meeting each member of this committee separately, and I've met with 45 senators in total. Your careful attention to my nomination demonstrates your dedication to the crucial role that the Senate plays in this constitutional process, and I thank you. And while I'm on the subject of gratitude, I must also pause to reaffirm my thanks to God, for it is faith that sustains me at this moment. Even prior to today, I can honestly say that my life has been blessed beyond measure. The first of my many blessings is the fact that I was born in this great nation a little over 50 years ago in September of 1970. Congress had enacted 2 civil rights acts in the decade before, and like so many who had experienced lawful racial segregation firsthand, my parents, Johnny and Ellery Brown, left their hometown of Miami, Florida, and moved to Washington, D.C. to experience new freedom. When I was born here in Washington, my parents were public school teachers, and to express both pride in their heritage and hope for the future, they gave me an African name, Ketanji Onyeka, which they were told means lovely one. My parents taught me that unlike the many barriers that they had had to face growing up, my path was clearer, so that if I worked hard and I believed in myself in America, I could do anything or be anything I wanted to be. Like so many families in this country, they worked long hours and sacrificed to provide their children every opportunity to reach their God-given potential. My parents have been married for almost 54 years, and they're here with me today. I cannot possibly thank them enough for everything they've done for me. I love you, Mom and Dad. My father, in particular, bears responsibility for my interest in the law. When I was 4, we moved back to Miami so that he could be a full-time law student, and we lived on the campus of the University of Miami Law School. During those years, my mother pulled double duty, working as the sole breadwinner of our family while also guiding and inspiring 4-year-old me. My very earliest memories are of watching my father study. He had his stack of law books on the kitchen table while I sat across from him with my stack of coloring books. My parents also instilled in me and my younger brother, Ketanji, the importance of public service. After graduating from Howard University, Ketanji started out as a police officer, following 2 of our uncles. After the September 11th attacks on our country, Ketanji volunteered for the Army and eventually became an infantry officer serving 2 tours of duty in the Middle East. Ketanji is here today providing his love and support as always. And speaking of unconditional love, I would like to introduce you to my husband of 25 years, Dr. Patrick Jackson. I have no doubt that without him by my side from the very beginning of this incredible professional journey, none of this would have been possible. We met in college more than 3 decades ago, and since then, he's been the best husband, father, and friend I could ever imagine. Patrick, I love you. William, Patrick's identical twin brother, is here as well, along with his wonderful wife, Dana. Also here from Park City, Utah, are Patrick's older brother, Gardy, and his wife, Natalie. And last, but certainly not least, my very dear in-laws, the matriarch and patriarch of the Jackson family, Pamela and Gardner Jackson, have traveled here from Boston to be with me today. I'm saving a special moment in this introduction for my daughters, Talia and Layla. Girls, I know it has not been easy as I've tried to navigate the challenges of juggling my career and motherhood. And I fully admit that I did not always get the balance right. But I hope that you've seen that with hard work, determination, and love, it can be done. I am so looking forward to seeing what each of you chooses to do with your amazing lives in this incredible country. I love you so much. There are so many others who are not here today, but whom I need to acknowledge. I have a large extended family on both sides. They are watching from Florida, North Carolina, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, Colorado, and beyond. I also have incredible friends. 3 of my college roommates came here today to support me, and I have so many other boosters from Miami Palmetto Senior High School, Harvard undergrad, Harvard Law School, and all throughout my personal and professional life. I've also had extraordinary mentors, like my high school debate coach, Fran Berger, may she rest in peace. She invested fully in me, including taking me to Harvard, the first I'd ever really thought of it, to enter a speech competition. Mrs. Berger believed in me, and in turn, I believed in myself. In the category of great mentors, it was also my great good fortune to have had the chance to clerk for 3 brilliant jurists, U.S. District Judge Patty Saris, U.S. Court of Appeals Judge Bruce Selya, and Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. These extraordinary people were exceptional role models. Justice Breyer, in particular, not only gave me the greatest job that any young lawyer could ever hope to have, but he also exemplifies what it means to be a Supreme Court justice of the highest level of skill and integrity, civility, and grace. It is extremely humbling to be considered for Justice Breyer's seat, and I know that I could never fill his shoes. But if confirmed, I would hope to carry on his spirit. On the day of his Supreme Court nomination, Justice Breyer said, quote, "What is law supposed to do, seen as a whole? It is supposed to allow all people, to live together in a society where they have so many different views, so many different needs, to live together in a way that is more harmonious, that is better, so that they can work productively together." End quote. I could not have said it better myself. Members of this committee, if I am confirmed, I commit to you that I will work productively to support and defend the Constitution and this grand experiment of American democracy that has endured over these past 246 years. I have been a judge for nearly a decade now, and I take that responsibility and my duty to be independent very seriously. I decide cases from a neutral posture. I evaluate the facts, and I interpret and apply the law to the facts of the case before me without fear or favor, consistent with my judicial oath. I know that my role as a judge is a limited one, that the Constitution empowers me only to decide cases and controversies that are properly presented. And I know that my judicial role is further constrained by careful adherence to precedent. Now, in preparing for these hearings, you may have read some of my more than 570 written decisions, and you may have also noticed that my opinions tend to be on the long side. That is because I also believe in transparency, that people should know precisely what I think and the basis for my decision. And all of my professional experiences, including my work as a public defender and as a trial judge, have instilled in me the importance of having each litigant know that the judge in their case has heard them, whether or not their arguments prevail in court. During this hearing, I hope that you will see how much I love our country and the Constitution and the rights that make us free. I stand on the shoulders of so many who have come before me, including Judge Constance Baker Motley, who was the first African-American woman to be appointed to the federal bench and with whom I share a birthday. And like Judge Motley, I have dedicated my career to ensuring that the words engraved on the front of the Supreme Court building, "Equal justice under law," are a reality and not just an ideal. Thank you for this historic chance to join the highest court, to work with brilliant colleagues, to inspire future generations, and to ensure liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Judge Jackson. Well, this is the end of the first day of the first 3 days, which are involving more personal, on a personal level, the senators on the Judiciary Committee. In a way, it's the easiest day because 10 minutes is merely a throat-clearing warm-up for most senators on this committee. Starting tomorrow, there'll be some serious exchange and questions of 30 minutes, and then the following day, 20 minutes for each senator to participate in this. We're looking forward to this opportunity to finally really give you a fulsome opportunity to respond to many of the things that you've heard and to answer direct questions. Members have until Thursday at 5 p.m. to submit questions for the record. We're going to reconvene tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to begin the 30-minute rounds of questions. We thank all the participants and members of our audience for keeping this dignified, respectful, and civilized, and we hope to continue that tradition tomorrow. At this, the committee stands adjourned.
Dignified, respectful, civilized, the description from the chair of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Durbin, there moments ago. History made on Capitol Hill before the American people watching live this afternoon. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first black woman nominated to the Supreme Court, delivering her opening statement, reminding the committee this is her 4th time that she's had the honor of appearing before that committee, each time not only passing the committee, getting their votes, but also the fact that she received votes from Democrats and Republicans along the way, though the Supreme Court confirmation process will be much more challenging, and there's no guarantee she'll get that same Republican support. She did talk about having met with 45 senators, obviously Democrats and Republicans, her gratitude, her thanks to God, saying it's her faith that sustains her. She talked a lot about family. Her parents who inspired her, Johnny and Ellery Brown, both public school teachers. Her father then became a lawyer. She talked about his law books and her coloring books when they would sit together. And she talked about the name her parents gave her. It was an African name, Ketanji, saying it meant lovely one. Lindsay Davis, who's been watching the hearings with me here in New York. And Lindsay, I was looking at the parents. Must be so difficult to sit there without a tear, but it was her husband, the surgeon who she met at Harvard, who couldn't help but to tear up in this historic moment when she thanked him.
That was such a sweet and touching moment. Her parents beamed as they watched, but he's the one that was really feeling it and breaking down. She has called him in the past the Rock, her rock, her personal rock. But David, prior to his tears, right before, and we were still on at the moment, when I just noticed her quietly wiping away her own, really in touch and in tune with the magnitude of the moment. And I was thinking about, in that particular moment, the generations of Black women who are brilliant and resilient, who would have achieved, who could have achieved, who should have, but for the knee of injustice that has been dealt with in the past. And so there are some who are lamenting that it took 233 years to get to the first Black female nominee, but at the same time, there's this overwhelming feeling of celebration that here we are. And she referenced that today, talking about the shoulders that she stands on. And so while a lot of people have talked about how she's not going to change the balance of the majority of the court, but she's going to bring this unique set of experience. She's going to bring her voice there. And it's an inspiration for so many about what's possible.
Lindsay Davis here with us, and there'll be so many questions about what drives her decision making. She said there in front of not only that room, but the country, what Justice Stephen Breyer said on his first day of his hearings so many years ago. She said, what is the law supposed to do seen as a whole? It is supposed to allow all people to live together in a society where they have so many different views, so many different needs, to live together in a way that is more harmonious. She said, I could not have said it better myself. I want to bring in Terry Moran, who has covered the Supreme Court for so many years for us. He's right there at the White House for us today. And Terry, that was the first hint of what drives her as a jurist.
It was. Justice Breyer, a huge influence on her, obviously her mentor, but also his approach to the cases that come before the court. And that relationship and that approach was one of the key reasons, we are told, that President Biden selected Ketanji Brown Jackson, because he knew Justice Breyer when Breyer worked in the Senate, on the staff of the Senate Judiciary Committee. They're close. And over the years, he got to know Ketanji Brown Jackson as well. Judge Jackson is a person who approaches the law in that same way. And President Biden has said, he's told senators, that it's her background also as a public defender and other aspects of her legal career that give her a sense of the human consequences of the law. And you could hear that in her. And I was also struck by that full-hearted voicing of American patriotism at the beginning of her remarks, just as she did when President Biden nominated her. This is a person who knows firsthand, obviously, the greatest crisis in our country's history, the crisis of racism, has lived through it and still loves the country openly. I think that obviously is one of the reasons that not only President Biden selected her, but it's going to be very difficult for the Republicans really to do a lot of damage to a candidate like this, to a nominee like this. This is the one chance that the American people get to really listen and look at Supreme Court justices. They go behind those curtains, no cameras in the courtroom. And this moment where she stepped forward to say, here I am, an American, a Black woman, and I'm ready for this job. It was a very strong performance, no question about it.
Terry Moran live at the White House. And Terry, as you alluded to there, Judge Jackson saying before that committee and before the country, I hope my love for this country will be seen in these coming days as she's questioned about how she would perform as a Supreme Court justice. I want to bring in Rachel Scott real quick before we go for one last reminder of the temperature shift expected in that room in the coming days. You heard the chair of the committee, Dick Durbin, the senator there, even predict. Judge Jackson chuckled, a smile on her face when he said, this is just the beginning. This is the easiest part, that there will be tougher questions ahead. And some of the senators on the Republican side hinted at their lines of inquiry ahead. And Senator Blackburn, for one, suggesting that she'll be asking about a parent's role in their own child's education and making their own decisions. For example, one of many questions expected, and the chair of that committee saying, get ready.
Yeah, as Senator Durbin said, this definitely is the easy part, and the days that follow will be tough for Judge Jackson because her record will be put in the spotlight and it will be under fire. She'll be facing some very tough questions over the course of the next 2 days from both Democrats and Republicans about her record. We certainly saw a preview of those attacks today where Republicans are calling her soft on crime. Of course, though, Democrats do have the majority in the Senate. All that is required to confirm Judge Jackson when her nomination is sent over over to the full Senate for a vote is a simple majority, 51 votes. Democrats do have the numbers. Of course, last time around when she was confirmed to the D.C. Circuit, she earned the support of 3 Republican senators, including Senator Lindsey Graham. Well, today he says that she is a pick of the radical left. The White House is hoping for bipartisan support. They certainly are not counting on it. And if she is confirmed, of course, an extreme moment in history, 233 years in the making. And you could certainly feel the weight of that in the hearing room today, David.
Rachel Scott in the hearing room for us. Rachel, thank you. Rachel allowed to talk a little more loudly than she was at the beginning of the special report because the hearing is over for the day. But as Rachel points out again, the Democrats have the votes they need, barring anything unforeseen in the days ahead, to confirm her. Of course, they would also like Republicans to come on board, at least a couple of them, as she has seen in previous visits before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Our coverage is going to continue right now on ABC News Live. Lindsay will be back with her program later this evening at abcnews.com as well. You can watch gavel-to-gavel coverage of the confirmation hearing beginning tomorrow, 9 a.m. on ABC News Live. And I'll be back with the entire team for World News Tonight. Our thanks to Terry, to Lindsay, to Rachel. I'm David Muir in New York. I'll see you soon. Good day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.